Good evening, television fans. Big Al here on this Saturday, July 5th, 2025. I hope everyone had a safe and fun 4th of July. And welcome to episode number 6 of TV television history. Today we'll be wrapping up week 1 of this series with a look at WWOR-TV, extending from its days as an independent station to present day where they are currently owned by Fox. So with that, like, comment, and subscribe to my channel, ring the bell, and get notified every time I go live, and let's dive in to the history of WWOR-TV. Crazy Cajuns in the house. What's up, bro? Alright. WWOR-TV Channel 9 is a television station licensed to Secaucus, New Jersey, serving the New York metro area as the flagship of the My Network TV programming service. It is owned and operated by Fox television stations alongside Fox flagship WNYW Channel 5. The two stations share studios at the Fox Television Center on East 67th Street in Manhattan's Lenox Hill neighborhood, and Channel 9's transmitter is located at One World Trade Center. And now the specs on WWOR-TV, Secaucus, New Jersey, New York, New York. The station broadcasts on Virtual Channel 9 and RF Digital Channel 25, which is shared with WRNN-TV. On-air brand is My 9, featuring programming from My Network TV, Buzzer, and Heroes and Icons. Owner is Fox Television Stations LLC. Its sister station is the aforementioned WNYW. WWOR-TV was founded in April 1947 and signed on the air on October 11, 1949 as WOR-TV. They would become WWOR-TV in 1987. The station previously aired on VHF Analog Channel 9 from 1949 to 2009, and their digital signal aired on RF UHF Channel 38 from 2002 to 2018 before moving to the present Channel 25. Their translator is W71AK in the Bronx on Channel 71. Channel 9 started off as an independent station and then was the New York charter affiliate of UPN from 1995 up until that station's end in 2006. The call sign meaning is a variation of WOR-TV. Channel 9 is licensed by the Federal Communications Commission, currently broadcasting with an effective radiated power of 57.8 kilowatts, but they have a special temporary authority to reduce power to 39 kilowatts. Their 1,706-foot transmitter is located at One World Trade Center. Their website is www.my9nj.com. History: WOR-TV, 1949 to 1987, early history. Channel 9 signed on the air on October 11, 1949 as WOR-TV. It was owned by the Bamberger Broadcasting Service, a division of R.H. Macy and Company, and named after the Bamberger's department store chain, which also operated WOR 710 AM and WOR FM 98.7 FM, now WEPN FM. Exactly 10 months earlier, Bamberger launched Washington, D.C.'s fourth television station, WOIC Channel 9, which is today WUSA, the CBS station in D.C. WOR-TV entered the New York market as the last of the city's VHF stations to sign on and one of three independents, the others being WPIX Channel 11 and Newark, New Jersey-based WATV Channel 13, now operating on a non-commercial license as PBS station WNET. On WOR-TV's opening night, a welcome address was read by WOR Radio's morning host John B. Gambling. However, the audio portion of the speech was not heard because of a technical glitch. The problem was fixed and Gambling repeated the message later that evening prior to the station's sign-off. That first broadcast and other early WOR TV shows emanated from the New Amsterdam Theater's roof garden located west of Times Square. For a short time, the station's transmitter operated from WOR TV Tower in North Bergen, New Jersey, and was later moved to the Empire State Building. At the start of 1950, Bamberger Broadcasting changed its name to General Teleradio. Later that year, WOIC was sold to a joint venture of the Washington Post and CBS, who would change that station's call sign to WTOP-TV. In 1951, the station moved uptown to the newly constructed 9 Television Square facility at 101 West 67th Street. The West 67th Street studio was built from the ground up as a television facility, initially built by the Robert Gless Company for the Bamberger Broadcasting Service. The building itself was owned by the Macy's Employees Pension Fund, and it had been leased prior to completion to Thomas S. Lee Enterprises, a company that would later be absorbed into RKO General. Lee, the son of the broadcasting pioneer Don Lee, owned several mutual network stations on the West Coast and held a 25-year lease on the building running from January 1952 to January 1977. Soon after the building was completed in 1952, Macy's Bambergers merged the WOR stations with the General Tire and Rubber Company, which already had broadcasting interests in 3 cities through 2 other subsidiaries, the Regional Yankee Radio Network and WNAC AM, FM, and TV in Boston, and the Don Lee Broadcasting System, which operated KHJ AM, FM, and TV in Los Angeles, and KFRC AM and FM in San Francisco. The subsidiaries were then brought together under the General Teleradio name. The main impetus for the merger was to give General Tire a controlling share in the Mutual Radio Network, which was affiliated with and partially owned by WOR and other stations. The merger also raised speculation that Mutual would launch a television network, plans that were discussed since before WOR-TV went on the air. However, shortly before the merger in April 1950, plans for the proposed Mutual branded network advanced far enough that at the annual meeting of Mutual stockholders, network president Frank White made an official announcement, of the planned creation of the limited 5-station Mutual network in Boston, New York, Washington, D.C., Chicago, and Los Angeles. At that same time, Mutual radio station KQV in Pittsburgh which was engaged in an ultimately unsuccessful attempt to get a television license, was reportedly hoping for for their station to be a Mutual Television affiliate. Mutual Television Network ended up being the decided on brand for the Mutual branded network. However, the 5-station Mutual network failed in short time. After a transitional period, WOR relocated television operations to their headquarters at 1440 Broadway, closer to its radio station sisters, and to a new compact studio for news and special events programming located on the 83rd floor of the Empire State Building. In early 1954, RKO sublet the 67th Street facility, both building and TV equipment, to NBC for 3 years, with options for extensions. In 1955, General Tire purchased RKO Radio Pictures, giving the company's TV stations access to RKO's film library. And in 1959, General Tire's broadcasting and film divisions were renamed as RKO General. During the 50s and early 60s, all 3 of New York's independents struggled to find competitive and acceptable programming. The field would increase by 1 in 1956 when former Dumont flagship station WABD Channel 5, which is now Fox flagship WNYW, which is also WWOR's current sister station, became an independent. During this era, WWOR-TV's programming was comparable to its rivals with a blend of movies, children's programs, canceled TV series which had previously run on one of the networks, and public affairs shows. In 1962, the field of independent stations was narrowed to 3, as WWOR-TV and its competition benefited from the sale of WNTA-TV Channel 13, formerly the anchor station of the short-lived NTA Film Network, to the nonprofit Educational Broadcasting Company, who would convert Channel 13 to a non-commercial educational station and NET affiliate or member station. Of course, NET, or National Educational Television, was the precursor of today's PBS. For much of the 1960s, WOR-TV was a standard independent station with a schedule composed of some local public affairs shows, off-network programs, children's shows such as The Friendly Giant, which would then move to WNDT, and Romper Room, which would move to the station from Channel 5 in 1966, plus sporting events and a large catalog of movies, some of which came from the RKO Radio Pictures film library. Until 1985, the station had a tradition of showing King Kong, Son of Kong, and Mighty Joe Young on Thanksgiving, and Godzilla films the day after Thanksgiving. In 1962, nostalgia maven Joe Franklin moved his daily talk program to Channel 9 after a 12-year run at WABC-TV. The Joe Franklin Show ended on August 6, 1993, which, having run for 42 years, makes it one of the longest-running programs in television history, local or national. The long-running public affairs show Firing Line began on Channel 9 in 1966 and ran on the station until 1971, after which its host, William F. Buckley Jr., moved the program to public television, where the program aired until it ended in 1999. In 1968, the station continued to maintain offices at 1440 Broadway, while the station moved to new studio facilities 2 blocks north at 1481 Broadway. Alright, now to the 1970s. By the early 1970s, WNEW-TV evolved into the leading station for cartoons and sitcoms, while WPIX aired a similar format, though with more movies. In the early 70s, WOR-TV had shows such as The Beverly Hillbillies, The Dick Van Dyke Show, Gilligan's Island, and The Avengers. Beginning in 1971, the station began gradually seeking a different programming strategy, one that was more adult-oriented with a heavy emphasis on films, reruns of hour-long network dramas, game shows, and sports. The station also gradually phased out most sitcoms and all children's programming with the exception of Romper Room. It was also the first New York station to have a 12 noon newscast on weekdays, in addition to producing several hours a day of local talk shows such as The Joe Franklin Show, Straight Talk, and public affairs programs such as Meet the Mayors, titles that were shared by other RKO General television stations. WOR-TV also aired Spanish-language telenovelas on weekdays in the early 70s, such as the Argentinian-Peruvian co-production Nino, Los Casos Simples de la Vida. Later in the 70s, Channel 9 looked towards the United Kingdom for alternate offerings. On September 6, 1976, WOR-TV offered a week of programming from Thames Television during prime time. Most of these shows have never before been seen on American television, including the first U.S. telecast of The Benny Hill Show, the Quentin Crisp biographical film The Naked Civil Servant, and an airing of an episode of Man About the House, which would be adapted by ABC's Three's Company the following year. WOR-TV also aired episodes of the ITV musical drama Rock Follies and the BBC science fiction series Doctor Who during this period. On April 5, 1980, WOR-TV presented Japan Tonight, a 7-hour block of programs from Japan's Tokyo Broadcasting System, featuring shows that were either dubbed or subtitled in English. During this period, various sports telecasts aired on most nights in prime time, with feature films running on nights where sports did not air under the $1 Million Movie banner. In 1984, WOR-TV began moving classic sitcoms like Bewitched, Burns and Allen, I Dream of Jeannie, and others into its weekday lineup, focused slightly less on sports, and added more off-network drama shows to the lineup. The station also pulled back religious programming as well, pushing it earlier in the morning. With the advent of cable and satellite-delivered television, independent stations were being uplinked for regional and national distribution, thus becoming superstations. In April 1979, Syracuse, New York-based Eastern Microwave Incorporated began distributing WOR-TV to cable and C-band satellite subscribers across the United States, joining WTBS in Atlanta, now WPCH-TV, and WGN-TV in Chicago as national superstations. Joey's in the building. What's up, Joey? Next up, troubles with the FCC. While WOR-TV was gaining national exposure, a battle for the station's survival and that of its owner was well underway. In 1975, RKO applied for renewal of its license to operate WOR-TV. The Federal Communications Commission conditioned this renewal on that of its Boston sister station, WNAC-TV. In 1980, the FCC stripped RKO of WNAC-TV's license due to a litany of offenses dating back to the 1960s, but ultimately because RKO had withheld evidence of corporate misconduct by General Tire. The decision meant that RKO lost WOR-TV's license and that of LA's sister station KHJ-TV. However, an appeals court ruled that the FCC had erred in trying WOR-TV and KHJ-TV's renewals to WNAC-TV and ordered new proceedings. RKO soon found itself under renewed pressure from the FCC, which began soliciting applications for all of the company's broadcast licenses in February of 1983. Now the move to New Jersey. To buy itself some time, RKO, with the help of New Jersey Senator Bill Bradley, persuaded the U.S. Congress to pass a law requiring the FCC to automatically renew the license of any VHF station that moved its license to a state not served by a commercial VHF station. New Jersey and Delaware were the only states not to be served by a commercial VHF station, and there were complaints for many years that New Jersey in particular have been underserved by VHF stations from the New York City and Philadelphia markets. New Jersey was left without any commercial VHF allocations located within the state due to the 1962 conversion of Newark's Channel 13 to a non-commercial outlet. Soon after this law took effect, RKO moved WOR-TV's license to Secaucus, New Jersey, located 7 miles west of Manhattan. On April 20th, 1983, however, for all intents and purposes, it remained a New York City station. WOR Radio had originally been licensed to Newark when it signed on in 1922, while it moved its studios across the Hudson River in 1926. The station remained licensed in Newark until 1941. One of the FCC's conditions of renewing Channel 9's license required RKO to also move the station's main studio to New Jersey. 3 years after its city of license was moved to New Jersey, WOR-TV moved its operations to the newly built 9 Broadcast Plaza in Secaucus on January 13, 1986. The FCC also required Channel 9 to increase its coverage of events on the New Jersey side of the market. 1 month later, the New Jersey State Senate petitioned the FCC to approve an extension of the Channel 9 signal into southern New Jersey. Because of various other issues, one of which would be the fact that rights to most syndicated programs would interfere with the local broadcast rights to these shows on Philadelphia stations, the request was denied. The move to New Jersey did little to relieve the regulatory pressure on RKO. Seeing the handwriting on the wall, RKO put Channel 9 up for sale in 1985. Westinghouse Broadcasting, Chris Craft Industries, and a joint venture of Cox Enterprises and MCA Universal emerged as the leading suitors for WOR-TV. The station was sold to the Cox MCA Group in late 1986 for $387 million. Cox later withdrew the joint venture due to disagreements between the two firms on who would be responsible for running the station, leaving MCA to take sole ownership of Channel 9 on April 21, 1987. The sale came just in the nick of time for RKO. 2 months after MCA closed on the purchase, an administrative law judge recommended that RKO would be forced out of broadcasting altogether due to a litany of misconduct. Eventually, WOR Radio would be sold to Hartford, Connecticut-based Buckley Broadcasting, and WRKS-FM, which is 98.7 in New York, now WEPN FM, would be sold to Summit Broadcasting. Now as WWOR-TV from 1987 to the present, beginning with MCA/Pineland/Chris Craft/BHC era. This is 1987 to 1995. Upon MCA taking control, Channel 9 added an extra W to its call letters, becoming WWOR-TV on April 29, 1987. MCA knew it had to change the call letters due to FCC rules at the time that dictated that TV and radio stations in the same market but with different ownership had to use different call signs, but still wanted to trade on the 65-year heritage of the WOR call letters in the New York area. Initially, the station's programming stayed nearly the same. While the RKO era dotted 9 logo was replaced by a new red 9, MCA relaunched WWOR-TV that fall with a new all CGI look. The logo was replaced with a new Venetian Blinds 9 movie, and special presentations were preceded by a new, more dramatic intro, while a new 3-pointed triangle was used in the main ident and in the first intro for the news at 10, representing the tri-state area. However, the RKO area announcers would stay on, and all but 6 hours of programming per day remained the same. The station would drop most of its public affairs programming. Romper Room was cut back to a half hour and moved to 6 a.m. All religious shows except for the Sunday Mass were dropped. Cartoons were added to the station's morning lineup, and stronger syndicated shows were added in early evenings. Late morning time slots consist of classic sitcoms, and afternoons continue to consist of game shows, drama series, and movies. Programs seen in both day parts were largely those held over from the station's final years under RKO ownership. Later that fall, in prime time, the $1 Million Movie was relegated to weekends in favor of Morton Downey Jr.'s controversial nude talk show, while the 8 p.m. news was moved to 10 and expanded to an hour. To emphasize this, it was briefly titled The News at 10. This didn't last long, and by 1988, it became Channel 9 News. The overhaul continued in 1988 and 1989 when it added the locally produced kids show Steam Pipe Alley and more evening sitcoms, including, among others, reruns of top-rated sitcoms The Cosby Show and Who's the Boss, as well as MCA Universal Search programming including Kate and Allie, The Munsters Today, My Secret Identity, and The New Lassie. WWOR-TV also borrowed programming formulas used on the Westinghouse stations. A short-lived version of Evening Magazine aired in primetime, and a locally produced talk show called People Are Talking ran at 11 a.m. That program would later change its title to 9 Broadcast Plaza, named after the station's Secaucus studio location, and then to the Richard Bay Show for syndication. During this time, the studios were a hotbed of production, including the aforementioned local shows, the Morton Downey Jr. Show, which was nationally syndicated by then sister firm MCA-TV, and the Howard Stern Show, hosted by New York radio personality Howard Stern from 1990 to 1992. Because of this, the station's newscast had to be moved to the newsroom, and it would not return to having its own set until joining UPN. More on that shortly. In 1989, the FCC passed the Syndicated Exclusivity Rights Rule, or SYNDEX, into law, which required cable providers to black out certain syndicated programs on out-of-market stations where local broadcasters claimed the rights to air in a particular market. To lighten the burden on cable providers as a result of this law, Eastern Microwave acquired the rights to programs to which no station owned exclusive end-market rights. It then broadcast this programming on WWOR's national feed to replace programs that could not be aired nationally. Most of the programs came from the Universal and Quinn Martin libraries, along with some shows from the Christian Science Monitor's television service, as well as some holdover shows that had aired on the local New York feed before the Syndex law's passage. Eastern Microwave would eventually launch a separate feed for satellite and cable subscribers on January 1st, 1990, called the WWOR EMI service. By the early 90s, WWOR and WPIX began to be replaced on many cable systems by the superstation feed of WGN-TV, which also launched an alternate feed for nationwide viewers in response to Syndex's regulations. During the autumn of 1990, WWOR-TV began branding itself as Universal 9 on air, highlighting its association with the MCA Universal Entertainment empire. However, later that same autumn, MCA's ownership of the station ended with the company's purchase by Osaka, Japan-based Matsushita Electric, now Panasonic Corporation. Since FCC regulations do not allow foreign companies to own more than a 25% interest in a television station, MCA spun off the assets of WWOR-TV into a new company called Pinelands Incorporated on January 1st, 1991. Universal would re-enter the New York television market after it merged with NBC to form NBC Universal in 2004, acquiring the network's flagship station, WNBC Channel 4, in the process. WWOR partnered with KCOP-TV Los Angeles and MCA-TV Entertainment on a two-night programming block. Hollywood Premiere Network started in October 1990, the month before Panasonic's purchase of MCA. Channel 9 was also aired select episodes of the Australian soap opera Neighbours from mid-June to mid-September of 1991. On March 30th, 1992, Disney Studios agreed to sell KCAL-TV, previously KHJ-TV, to Pinelands Incorporated for a 45% ownership stake in Pinelands, so as to have interest in TV stations in the two largest markets, New York and Los Angeles, allowing for increased original programming. Instead, Pinelands agreed to an unsolicited bid in May from Chris Craft Industries' BHC Communications subsidiary, thus ending the planned business merger with Disney's KCAL-9, and making WWOR a sister station to Chris Craft/BHC's KCOP in the process. Disney later acquired WABC-TV as part of its larger purchase of Capital Cities ABC Incorporated in 1996. In 1993, BHC aligned its independent stations with the Primetime Entertainment Network. WWOR also carried Spelling Premier Network at its launch in August 1994. UPN affiliation 1995 to 2006. In 1994, Chris Kraft and its broadcasting subsidiary BHC Communications and Viacom's newly acquired subsidiary Paramount Pictures partnered to form the United Paramount Network, or UPN, which debuted on January 16, 1995. The following year, Viacom bought 50% of UPN from Chris Kraft Industries. At the network's launch, WWOR-TV was UPN's quote-unquote flagship station. However, UPN did not allow WWOR's Superstation feed to carry the network's programs nationally. In contrast, the WB allowed WGN-TV to air network programming on cable feeds during that network's first 4 years on the air. In the 90s, the station continued with a large amount of younger skewing talk shows, reality programming, some sitcoms in evenings, and syndicated cartoons during the morning hours. On January 1st, 1997, with only a month's advance warning, Advance Entertainment Corporation, which had purchased the satellite distribution rights to WWOR from Eastern Microwave a few months earlier, stopped uplinking the national version. The EMI service's transponder space was sold to Discovery Communications for the then 6-month-old Animal Planet. Amid outcries from satellite dish owners, National Programming Service LLC uplinked the station again exclusively for satellite subscribers. The national feed was once again the same feed as the New York market feed. NPS dropped WWOR in 1999 in favor of PAX TV. But Dish Network still carries the New York feed of WWOR as part of its Superstations package, except in areas where the local UPN and later by Network TV affiliate invoked Syndex to block the feed. In 2000, Chris Kraft announced it was selling its television stations. It was believed that Viacom, which had purchased Chris Kraft, half of the network that year, not long after buying CBS and gaining full control of UPN and effectively stripping WWOR of its status as an owned and operated station of the network in the process, would buy the stations. However, Viacom lost its bid for the group to the Fox television station subsidiary of News Corporation on August 12, 2000, in a $5.5 billion deal, making WWOR-TV a sister station to longtime rival WNYW, creating a unique situation in which the largest affiliate station of one network was owned by the operator of another network. While some cast doubt on UPN's future, Fox quickly cut a new affiliation deal with UPN. On September 11, 2001, the transmitter facilities of WWOR-TV and 8 other New York City television stations and several radio stations were destroyed when 2 hijacked airplanes crashed into and destroyed the World Trade Center towers. With its broadcast signal shut down, WWOR fed its signal directly to cable and satellite systems, running wall-to-wall coverage of the attacks from CNN and later Fox News Channel. The station's website received unprecedented traffic but remained available, including streaming video of pre-recorded newscasts. Channel 9 resumed regular programming on September 17th. The station installed a new transmitter at the Empire State Building where the transmitter had been based prior to 1975, along with most of the other major New York stations until moving back to One World Trade Center in 2018. The attacks delayed the closing of the Chris Kraft deal for several days. Fox began integrating the operations of its two stations soon afterwards. Also on September 17, 2001, the Fox Kids weekday afternoon block moved from Channel 9 to Channel 5, while the station also ran UPN's Disney's 1-2 during morning hours. Channel 9 was New York City's last remaining commercial station to air children's programming on both weekday mornings and afternoons, an ironic twist from 20 years earlier. However, Fox later discontinued the Fox Kids weekday block in January 2002, while UPN ended their cartoon block in August 2003. WWOR then picked up syndicated cartoons in the fall of 2003 in the 7 to 9 a.m. time slot and later until 8, before dropping them all together in 2006. This made WWOR-TV the last commercial station to run any cartoons on weekdays. This was the second time the station phased out cartoons in favor of mandated children's programming, which WWOR has aired in its early years. WNYW also placed several of its underperforming syndicated programs on Channel 9 and cherry-picked the station's stronger programs for a broadcast on Channel 5 schedule. Currently, WWOR offers several double runs of WNYW's programs, but the two stations' individual schedules outside of network programming are much different. In 2004, Fox television stations announced that it would shut down WWOR-TV's Secaucus facilities and move its operations to WNYW's facility at the Fox Television Center in Manhattan. WNYW had already been handling some of Channel 9's internal operations for some time before then. Fox planned to keep 9 Broadcast Plaza as a satellite relay station for WNYW and WWOR. The facility also performed master control operations for Baltimore's My Network TV affiliate WUTB until locally based Sinclair Broadcast Group purchased WUTB from Fox in 2013. While some office functions were merged, plans for a full move to Manhattan were scuttled later that year due to pressure from New Jersey Congressman Steve Rotman, whose congressional district included Secaucus, and Senator Frank Lautenberg. The two lawmakers contended that if WWOR moved its operations back across the Hudson, it would be violating its conditions of license. According to Rothman, WWOR's license specifically required its main studio be based in New Jersey. Even without this to consider, a full merger of WNYW and WWOR's operations would have likely resulted in Channel 9's news department being downsized to the point that it would not be able to adequately cover news events focused on New Jersey, if not shut down altogether. As mentioned above, WWOR's license requires it to emphasize coverage of events on the New Jersey side of the market. My Network TV affiliation, 2006 to the present. On February 22, 2006, News Corporation announced the launching of a new 6th network called My Network TV, which would be operated by Fox television stations and its syndication division, 20th Television. My Network TV was created to compete against another upstart network that would launch at the same time that September, the CW, which is an amalgamated network that was originally considered primarily of UPN and the WB's higher rated programs, as well as to give UPN and WB stations that were not mentioned as becoming CW affiliates another option besides converting to independent stations. WPIX, which had been a WB affiliate since 1995, was announced for the CW's New York City area affiliate as part of a 10-year affiliation deal with Channel 11's parent company, Tribune Broadcasting. The network's officials were on record as preferring the strongest stations, strongest in quotation marks, among the WB and UPN's affiliates, none of which included any of Fox's UPN affiliated stations. Locally, WPIX have been well ahead of WWOR-TV in overall viewership for some time. The day after the announcement of the CW's formation, January 25, 2006, Fox removed all network references from on-air brands of its UPN affiliates and stopped promoting UPN programs altogether. WWOR accordingly changed its brand from UPN 9 to WWOR 9, although the station was referred to on air as simply 9, and altered its logo to only feature the box 9 with a small red stripe on the left side. WWOR had just introduced a new graphics package for its newscast and a revised logo almost 3 weeks prior with UPN branding. With the impending switch to My Network TV, Channel 9's on-air brand was changed to My 9 beginning on April 4th, with the new brand being introduced during Nets and Yankees game telecasts. 2 weeks later, on April 17th, WWOR incorporated the My 9 name into the station's remaining brand elements, including news. On June 2nd, WWOR changed its logo again, this time adopting one similar to the My Network TV logo presented at the launch agreement. Despite My Network TV's announcement that its launch date would be September 5th, 2006, UPN continued to broadcast on stations across the country until September 15th. While some UPN affiliates that switched to My Network TV aired the final 2 weeks of UPN programming outside its regular primetime period, WWOR and the rest of the network's Fox-owned affiliates dropped UPN's programming entirely on August 31st, 2006. WWOR-TV discontinued regular programming on its analog signal over VHF Channel 9 at 11:59 p.m. on June 12, 2009 as part of the federally mandated transition from analog to digital television. The last program to air on analog was an episode of Law & Order: Criminal Intent. The station's digital signal remained on its pre-transition UHF Channel 38 using virtual Channel 9. On October 15, 2010, News Corporation polled WWOR, WNYW, and Philadelphia sister station WTXF in South Jersey, as well as Fox Business, Fox Deportes, and Nat Geo Wild from Cable System or Cablevision Systems in the New York City tri-state area due to a dispute between Fox and Cablevision, in which Cablevision claimed that News Corporation demanded $150 million a year to renew its carriage of 12 Fox-owned channels. News Corporation responded to Cablevision's claims. Cablevision offered to submit binding arbitration on October 14, 2010, though News Corporation rejected Cablevision's proposal, saying that it would quote-unquote reward Cablevision for refusing to negotiate fairly. WWOR, WNYW, WTXF, and the 3 cable channels were restored on October 30th when Cablevision and News Corporation struck a new carriage deal. On November 3rd, 2011, Fox television stations signed an affiliation agreement with Bounce TV, a sub-channel network aimed at African American audiences, to carry the service on the second or third digital sub-channels of its My Network TV affiliated stations. On January 7, 2014, WWOR applied for a digital fill-in translator on Channel 34 from the Armstrong Tower and licensed to Alpine, New Jersey, that will serve the northern viewing area. 2007 to 2014 license renewal and objections. Before August 2014, the station awaited renewal of its broadcast license since 2007. The same year that two petitions to deny the license renewal were submitted. According to claims from U.S. Senator Frank Lautenberg and media observers who filed a complaint with the FCC in November 2009, WWOR-TV's performance was, quote, clearly inadequate to meet its personal interest obligations, end quote, and he questioned the truthfulness of its application. The station was also accused of misrepresenting the number of station employees based in Secaucus and failing to report a reduction in local news coverage. On February 17, 2011, the FCC opened an investigation against then WWOR parent News Corporation to determine whether the company misrepresented information about WWOR-TV's news operations and programming during the station's license renewal. News Corporation would have been stripped of its licenses to operate both WWOR-TV and sister station WNYW, as well as facing other penalties if found guilty of any wrongdoing. News Corporation spun off both stations and its other U.S. television properties to 21st Century Fox in June 2013. Legal representation hired by WWOR stated that the station had fulfilled its commitments. In December 2012, Lautenberg called for an investigation into the potential relaxing of FCC rules regarding ownership consolidation within media markets, stating that News Corporation co-ownership of WNYW and the New York Post, quote, has not served New Jersey well, end quote. Following Lautenberg's June 3, 2013 death and the subsequent announcement of the WWOR News Department closure 1 month later, fellow New Jersey Senator Robert Melendez took up the cause, saying it was increasingly critical with WWOR dropping their newscast and going with the outside chasing New Jersey for coverage of state issues for the FCC to make a ruling on WWOR's license and their fulfillment of their obligations. Representative Frank Pallone also called for the revocation of WWOR's license. In November 2013, the New Jersey legislature passed a resolution urging the FCC to revoke the station's license. In March 2014, New Jersey's United States Senator Bob Menendez wrote to the FCC asking for swift action to determine if the station had been fulfilling its licensing requirements. New Jersey is one of the most densely populated states in the country, but because of its location between New York and Philadelphia, does not have a designated market area or DMA. WWOR is required to fill this gap by operating in the state of New Jersey to the benefit of all residents. Unfortunately, concerns have mounted that the operations of WWOR have not fulfilled these requirements. That was from New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez. On August 8, 2014, the FCC renewed Channel 9's license, dismissing all of the objecting petitions, though the permanent waiver allowing Fox television stations to run both WNYW and WWOR, along with 21st Century Fox's shared ownership with the New York Post, was denied. A temporary waiver was granted. 2018 license renewal and full consolidation with WNYW. In January 2018, Senators Menendez and Cory Booker said the station had, quote, failed to live up to its federal mandate, end quote, to cover New Jersey news. Despite this, the station's license was renewed by the FCC on July 12, 2018 for a new 10-year cycle without objection. Booker and Menendez have continued to push for revocation of the station's license. 1 month after the license renewal, Fox television stations sold 9 Broadcast Plaza back to Hartz Mountain Industries, which developed the Secaucus Office Park WWOR-TV's facility was built in, for $4.05 million. Several months after the repeal of the FCC's main studio rule, which mandated continued operation of WWOR from Secaucus. Since that point, WWOR's operations have been consolidated with WNYW in Manhattan, and the building, which remains standing as of 2025, has had all WWOR-related television equipment removed. That was a long piece of history. Now we're getting to programming, beginning with sports programming. As an independent, Channel 9's schedule was heavy on sports programming. Early in its history, WOR-TV established itself as the home of National League Baseball in New York, carrying Brooklyn Dodgers games beginning in 1950 and New York Giants games beginning in 1951 until both teams moved to California, LA and San Francisco respectively, following the 1957 season. From 1958 to 1961, the station aired a limited schedule of Philadelphia Phillies games, consisting of matchups against the Dodgers and the Giants. In 1962, WOR-TV gained broadcast rights to the New York Mets, the NL's new expansion team. That partnership between the station and the team would last through 1998, after which the Mets moved their broadcast to WPIX, replacing Yankee telecasts on the station. Channel 9 acquired rights to the NHL's New York Rangers and the NBA's New York Knicks in 1965, holding on to both until 1989 when the two teams' television rights moved exclusively to cable on the MSG network. Other sports teams that have been broadcast on the station include the New York Islanders, New Jersey Devils, New Jersey/Brooklyn Nets, local college basketball, and the New York Cosmos. If you're wondering what the New York Cosmos are, they were a professional soccer team. The station also carries syndicated professional wrestling programming from the WWF or WWE and later World Championship Wrestling. Except for the Mets, for whom WWOR did cover a large number of home games, WWOR's pro sports coverage mainly featured away games. Although in the mid-1960s, the station taped a handful of Rangers Saturday afternoon home games for broadcast that evening. One such game on November 27, 1965 against the Chicago Blackhawks is said to be the first NHL game to ever be broadcast in color. WWOR-TV also broadcast an infamous interview between Mike Tyson and the station's then sports anchor Russ Salzberg in January 1999, whose intent was to discuss Tyson's then comeback fight against Francois Botha. Tyson shouted several expletives, making threats, and told the audience to switch the station off. This prompted Salzberg to abruptly end the interview, giving Tyson a half-hearted wish of luck on his upcoming fight. Tyson responded by telling Salzberg to F off. In late September 2001, WWOR-TV aired several New York Yankee baseball games that were originally scheduled to air on Channel 5. In 2005, Channel 9 picked up Yankees games on a full-time basis, with the broadcast being produced by the Yes Network. In 2015, Yankees games moved back to Channel 11 after a 10-year deal. WWOR has sometimes aired New York Giants preseason games due to commitments by Channel 4 to air national coverage of the Summer Olympics has occurred in 2012 and 2016. WWOR has also simulcast ESPN-produced Monday Night Football games in which the Giants or Jets were involved. WABC-TV Channel 7 holds rights of first refusal on local Monday Night Football broadcasts as a corporate sibling to ESPN, but often exercises that right to air ABC's Dancing with the Stars, as well as such games during the early existence of the NFL Network. Channel 9 was scheduled to be the local outlet for the December 30th, 2007 Giants-Patriots game. But with the Patriots on the verge of an undefeated regular season and NFL Network having minimal cable carriage at the time, the game ended up being simulcast nationally on CBS and NBC in addition to WWOR. As a sister station to WNYW, WWOR has sometimes aired Fox Sports programming while Channel 5 aired local programming. This was the case on September 11, 2021, when Channel 5 aired local 9/11 memorial programming, while WWOR aired a nationally televised Fox College football game. This was also the case again on September 21st, 2023, when Channel 5 aired a Thursday night football game between the New York Giants and the San Francisco 49ers, while Channel 9 aired a locally televised Baseball Night in America game between the New York Mets and Philadelphia Phillies. Coincidentally, as previously mentioned, WWOR aired Mets games from 62 to 98. Currently, Channel 9 airs select Brooklyn Nets games produced by Yes Network, whenever Yes Network's broadcasts a Yankees game during that same period. In 2023, 2 New York Liberty games also aired on the station, including one broadcast nationally on ABC due to Channel 7 televising the NYC Pride March. On November 18, 2023, WWOR broadcast a Seton Hall men's basketball game produced by Fox College Hoops. On March 12, 2024, it was announced that Channels 5 and 9 would become the new broadcast partners for the New York Liberty. And in February of this year, WWOR will air matches from the Coachella Valley Invitational Preseason Tournament featuring New York City FC and the New York Red Bulls of Major League Soccer. Newscasts. As most of New York's independent stations were during the 60s and 70s, WWOR-TV was a very minor player in the area of local news. Before 1971, the station did not carry any live news programming, but had an early morning audio-only newscast read by the on-duty staff announcer over the station logo. In 1971, WWOR-TV launched its first live newscast, The News at Noon, which was also the first midday newscast in New York City. Tom Dunn, previously of WABC, was the lead anchor. In 1983, following the move to New Jersey, Channel 9 launched the nightly 8 p.m. newscast called News 9 Primetime. After the MCA takeover in 1987, the 8 p.m. news was moved 2 hours later to 10 and expanded to an hour, placing it in direct competition with newscasts in that time slot, airing on Channel 11 and eventual sister WNYW. Dunn opted to leave Channel 9 that summer, with his last newscast for the station airing on June 19th. He was replaced as lead anchor by Van Hackett, formerly of ABC-owned KTRK-TV in Houston. The noon program, which was later merged into 9 Broadcast Plaza, ended in 1993 and was replaced by The Ricky Lake Show. Despite the presence of his sister station WNYW's long-running and successful news program at 10, Channel 9 was able to compete in that same time slot following Fox's acquisition of Channel 9, simply because both stations used separate studios. As opposed to the model of most television station duopolies, WWOR and WNYW operated news departments that were technically separate from one another. WWOR operated its news department from the station's Secaucus studios, while WNYW ran theirs from the Fox Television Center in Manhattan, allowing the two stations to maintain their own on-air identities and often individual local news programs simultaneously. However, the two stations shared a fairly significant amount in regards to news coverage, with some staffers having switched from one station to the other. Both stations maintained their own primary on-air personalities, such as news anchors and reporters, that only appeared on one station. WWOR's newscasts also focused on a larger proportion of their stories on New Jersey issues, a condition that the station had adhered to since its license was transferred from New York to Secaucus. On July 13, 2009, the 10 p.m. news was moved to 11 and was shortened to a half hour due to budget cuts. In addition, weekend newscasts and a Sunday night sports highlight program were canceled. On July 27, 2011, WWOR-TV returned the newscast to its previous 10 p.m. slot and retitled it the 10 o'clock news. It remained a half hour in length and continued to air on weeknights only. On September 10, 2012, WWOR-TV began broadcasting its newscast in high definition. Sports director Russ Salzberg, anchor Brenda Blackman, and reporter Brenda Flanagan were the station's longest tenured on-air personalities. Flanagan worked for the station starting in 1983, while Salzberg and Blackman joined Channel 9 in 1988 and 1992 respectively. In areas of central New Jersey where the New York and Philadelphia markets overlap with one another, Both WWOR and WNYW share resources with their Philadelphia sister station WTXF-TV. The stations share reporters for stories occurring in New Jersey counties served by both markets. The 10 p.m. newscast was canceled following its broadcast on July 2nd, 2013, ending 42 years of newscast production by Channel 9 and 30 years of primetime newscasts. In its place, the station introduced Chasing New Jersey, which was later renamed to Chasing News, a nightly New Jersey-focused news magazine with a fast-paced format, on July 8th. The program, which was produced by Fairfax Productions, a production company led by the Vice President and General Manager of Philadelphia's sister station WTXF, from a studio in Trenton, and hosted by Bill Spadea, who was seen on WTXF as a lead-in to its morning newscast. With the end of WWOR's newscast, Brenda Blackman was reassigned to produce and host news specials for the station, although she would leave for WPIX in 2016, while other members of the on-air staff were offered new roles, including at Channel 5. Despite the closure of Channel 9's news department, the station's Secaucus facilities remained operational until 2018, when the repeal of the FCC main studio rule allowed the full consolidation of WWOR's operations with WNYW. Chasing News was canceled in June 2020, leaving Channel 9 without any news programs. Then on August 12, 2024, WWOR began a weeknight rebroadcast of Channel 5's 6 p.m. news, running at 8 p.m. Okay, former personalities on the station include Steve Albert, Ernie Anastos, Richard Bay of his titular talk show, Brenda Blackman, Mario Cantone, Pat Collins, Judith Chris, Morton Downey Jr., Tom Dunn, Carter Evans, Dr. Frank Field, Storm Field, Joe Franklin, Barry Gray, Tony Guida, Van Hackett, Ray Heatherton, Larry Kenny, Sarah Lee Kessler, Walter Kierman, Matt Lauer, Otis Livingston, Mike Lupica, Malachi McCourt, Mary Helen McPhillips, Cora Ann Mahalik, Sean Mooney, Audrey Puente, Bill Ryan, Roland Smith, Howard Stern, Phil Tonkin, Jennifer Volpe, Lisa Willis, Kelly Wright, Lloyd Lindsay Young, and John Zachary. Subchannels. Alright, looking at the information here on WWOR-TV. On Channel 9.1, which broadcasts in 720p HD 16.9 aspect ratio, is the main My Network TV programming seen on WWOR-TV. There is no 9.2 subchannel. On Channel 9.3, which broadcasts at 480i high definition and 4:3 aspect ratio, is the game show network Buzzard. On 9.4 at 480i HD and a 16:9 aspect ratio is Heroes and Icons. And they also listed the subchannels for WRNN TV. Channel 48.1 at 720p HD resolution 16:9 aspect ratio is the shopping channel Shop LC. On 48.2 at 480i HD 16:9 aspect ratio is the newly revamped comedy network WWOR. On 48.3 at 480i resolution 16:9 aspect ratio is 365 Black. This is one of the new multicast channels aimed at African Americans. 48.4, which is 480i resolution HD, 16:9 aspect ratio, is the Westerns channel Outlaw. And on 48.5 at 480i HD, 16:9 aspect ratio is QVC2. And there's the history of WWOR-TV, licensed in Secaucus, New Jersey, and serving the New York television market. Okay, thanks for joining me on this first week of the series, and we will continue this next week with a look at the two New York PBS stations. On Monday, we'll look at the primary PBS station, which is WNET, and we'll tell you all about their history on Monday, so make sure you join me for that. In the meantime, like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Ring the bell and get notified every time I go live. Big Al signing off, and thanks for watching episode 6 of TV Station History. Again, Monday we'll be looking at WNET. Peace out.